اپنا زیادہ تر وہ جو ہے دے آر ان انگلش اسپیکنگ پیپل, تو پورا انگلش میں اس کو پورا یہ سیشن. سو وی آر اسٹارٹنگ دا پروگرام ناؤ. پلیز اسٹارٹ دا پروگرام. اینڈ قمر بھائی قرآن تلاوت started inshallah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على Muhammad وآل Muhammad. Today I will be reciting inshallah from Surah Baqarah, ayah number 177, a very popular one you might have heard, but it is always good to remind ourselves. It's always good. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Laysal birra an tawallaw wujuhakum qibla al-mashriq wal maghrib. Walakin al-birra man amana billahi wal yawmil akhir wal malaikatu wal kitab wal nabiyyin wa atal mala ala hubbihi zawil qurba wal yatama wal masakina wa ibn as-sabil والسائلين وفي الرقاب أقام الصلاة وآتى الزكاة والموفون بعهدهم إذا عاهدوا والصابرين في البأساء والضراء وحين البأس.
ایک منٹ, آپ کی ساؤنڈ میوٹ ہو گئی ہے قمر عبدی صاحب, کیا آپ اس کو انمیوٹ کر دیں گے؟
Sorry about that. So I was telling about, although he said go for only English, but just for a minute or so in Urdu, the meaning of this ayah which I just read. نیکی کچھ یہی تھوڑی ہے کہ نماز میں اپنے منہ پورب یا پچھم کی طرف کر لو, بلکہ نیکی تو اس کی ہے جو خدا اور روز آخرت اور فرشتوں اور خدا کی کتابوں اور پیغمبروں پر ایمان لائے, اور اس کی الفت میں اپنا مال خرابت داروں اور یتیموں اور محتاجوں اور پردیسیوں اور مانگنے والوں اور لونڈیوں غلام کے میں صرف کرے, اور پابندی سے نماز پڑھے اور زکوٰۃ دیتا رہے, اور جب کوئی عہد کیا ہو تو اپنے قول کو پورا رکھے, اور فخر و فاخر, رنج اور کٹھن اوقات میں ثابت قدم رہے. یہی لوگ وہ ہیں جو دعوے ایمان میں سچے نکلے, اور یہی لوگ پرہیزگار ہیں, یعنی متقی ہیں. And its translation in English is for 177 ayah of Surah Baqarah. Righteousness is not whether you turn your faces to the east or to the west, but righteous is he who believes in Allah and the last day and the angels and the scriptures and the prophets, and gives his wealth for the love of Allah to relatives, orphans, and the needy, and the wayfarer, and those who ask, and for the liberation of slaves, and establish the prayers and pay the zakah, and those who keep their pledges when they make them, and show patience in hardship and adversity and the time of distress. Such are the true believers, and such are the God-fearing ones. Sadaqallahul Aliyyul Azim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wajjal farajahum. Jazakallah, brother Qamar Abdi. I would like to request Dr. Shaeba Rizvi now to start his speech. Jazakallah, Dr. Sahab.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ماشاءاللہ ایسی آیت کی تلاوت ہو گئی کہ اب جی چاہ رہا ہے کہ اسی میں کھو جائیں. ایک تعینات ہے وہ آیت واقعی.
About angels, so I thought that will be a good one.
بالکل موضوع پہ ہے, بالکل موضوع پہ ہے. آپ ہر دفعہ ایسی آیت لے کے آتے ہیں. الحمدللہ الحمدللہ. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغه مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود فطر الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالصخور ميدان أرضه أبل الدين معرفته ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خير المبشرين والمنذرين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم
صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dearest viewers, Mu'mineen, Mu'minat, my elders, my youngers, brothers and sisters in faith, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My great honor again to have this opportunity on our Sunday to discuss the khutbah number 91 of Nahjul Balagha, Khutbatul Ashbah, the sermon of the skeletons it is called. There is a point we have reached now, which is regarding, and I'm still using the same translation. I will continue to use this one for this sermon. And we are at a part of the sermon containing description of the angels. Yesterday we were, Sunday, we were talking about the lights that he has fixed for them as signs of his oneness. And we discussed how in Surah Al-Rahman, this refers to the 14 Ma'sumin, as-salatu was-salamu alayh. We will move on and continue. Interesting to note here, and perhaps something we want to have in our mind as we move forward, is Amirul Mu'mineen as-salatu was-salamu alayhi over here is describing the angels. But we keep in mind that as human beings, we have the opportunity and the choice to either elevate ourselves, evolve, and go through a process of spiritual evolution to attain a status that is mentioned as higher than the angels. So what we see here is telling us what we should strive towards. And then also we can lower ourselves to below the level of animals as well. So when we look at this, it is not only simply a description of their faith, rather it is a description of what we should attain and move beyond, perhaps. The weight of sins does not burden them, and the rotation of the nights and days does not make them move. So here we see that two qualities have been mentioned. And the first quality is the weight of sins. So sins do have a weight, and that was something we were talking about last Sunday as well. Days and nights do not make them move. They are not under the influence of time. So this means there is an eternity to them. And that is also our goal, to achieve that eternity. Doubts do not attack with arrows the firmness of their faith. So we see that shak is something that is attacking our faith. And our faith, our iman, is something that is always under attack. And the fact that it is under attack shows us that there is a way to protect ourselves from that attack. And that way to protect ourselves is to remove doubt. So doubt is one of our biggest enemies. It is the enemy number one of faith. Misgivings do not assault the bases of their faith. So misgivings is where we are now have a certain fear for the future, where we're afraid, where there's the idea that perhaps what's going to happen is not in our benefit. This is a clash of wills. There is our desire, there is Allah's desire, our chahat, our hub, what we are irada, and there is his. And therefore, when they are not in line, that is when we are in fear. But when we have surrendered our will to his will, and his will is everywhere in the universe, then there is no concept of misgivings. The spark of malice does not ignite among them. Now, this is one of the greatest challenges and tests of us. where we as human beings interact with each other, and do we have malice towards each other? Sometimes the spark of jealousy turns into malice, and jealousy itself, hasad, is something that we have a surah of the Quran and other verses to protect us against. So when we're talking about Surah Al-Falaq, something that is essential as part of our armor. There's many surahs and many du'as that are part of our armor, and we have to activate them. It's simply not a matter of having this state of what we think is iman. We need to always protect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the universe in a way, even its physical reality, the lesser universe has an earth upon which you live, but we see that it is in the center, and there are always asteroids and various other dangers from space attacking our planet, but we have protection as well. A big planet like Jupiter has an incredible gravitational pull that sucks many of the dangers into it, and therefore acts like a shield around our planet as it revolves. So it shows us that Allah does have, there are shayateen that will be around us, and they do attack us. They attack our faith. But we have a way to protect, and that is, for example, Surah Al-Falaq. Jealousy and hasad is something that at its root is a tarnishing, is a malfunction, is a bad relationship between ourselves and Allah. That means jealousy is a manifestation of a disharmonious relationship we have established with Allah. From His hand is always harmony. But quite simply put, if we look at it at its core, we see that in jealousy, one is, and this is something that we all face. I've heard people saying things like, I'm not jealous. And when we say that, what happens, it's like saying, I don't have takabbur. These are things that are always attacking us. It is a matter of identifying them and squishing them. It is like saying, I don't have any bacteria in me, yet we are filled with it. Our entire body, it's inside, is infiltrated within us. Is it causing disease or not? That is a different situation. When there is an imbalance between the bacteria because of physical weakness, we don't get enough rest, enough diet, enough health, exercise, then our immune system is not able to combat these shayateen. Even in Rivayat, the bacteria, I know I'm comparing bacteria to ruhani shayateen. However, we need to see this world to understand that world. There is a reason why this world is the way it is. There are hints in it for us to understand the true spiritual realm, which this world is just an effect of that. So by looking at its reflection, we can understand the original. And when we say that the riwayah, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq, as-salatu was-salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadiyun, Muhammad. And what we say is that the Imam, Holy Imam, said regarding bacteria, actually, and he was talking to his companions, and they were talking about microbiology. And when they talked about disease, the companion asked, how do we get infectious diseases? And the Imam replied that there are little shayateen which you cannot see, which can transfer from one person to another, and they are the cause of disease. Now here we see the word shayateen being used because, and of course, it makes perfect sense, as that time, the word idea of bacteria, this is, of course, centuries before the discovery of the microscope. So we're talking 1,000 years or more, and that's why using that term in the same way when Amir al-Mu'mineen over here uses the term angels, it is not always going to be a figure that has wings and a halo and is human size flying around. There will be different manifestations of this angel. Same thing with shayateen. So therefore, they are always attacking us. Jealousy at its core is basically me saying that this person has something and I don't have it, perhaps, or this person has more of it, and therefore I am objecting. I am objecting. Now I am looking at this person and thinking that they have this or they have that, and I don't have this, I don't have that. These feelings start to arise within me, very negative feelings. But in reality, I am objecting to the bestowal of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who in his infinite wisdom, knowledge, and mercy is bestowing blessings upon all of creation according to his wisdom, which is according to our actions also and what our capabilities are. And therefore, if we truly relied on him infinitely, then we would look at what someone else has and we would be completely at rest. We would not be incited with certain feelings and hostility and negativity, because we are able to understand there's a reason why Allah has bestowed that and not bestowed it upon me. Yes, to see the blessings bestowed upon one another, upon another, and then to bow down in prostration to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to say that, oh Allah, what great blessings you have blessed people with. I would like this also. That is a different situation, and that situation leads to attainment of blessings and closer connection with Allah, more qurba. On the other hand, the path of hasad will lead us then further away. So malice is something, and this is, bughz, this is kina. This is something that we see destroyed many lives. Not only the ones who were inflamed by it, but even the other ones who were around them get affected by it. And therefore, amazement does not tarnish the knowledge of him in their hearts, or his greatness and awe of his glory that resides in their bosoms. We touched upon that a little bit last week, so I'll move on. The amazement aspect, which is ma'rifah. Amazement and ma'rifah is something that we see when we attain new knowledge, and it surprises us. When we gains knowledge about something that has never been seen or heard or contemplated by us, it rises to amazement. And this amazement is something that the stronger our faith, the more capable we are of accepting what has amazed us. Because accepting what has amazed us is accepting something that is different from what our preset ideology or preset, thoughts were, our preset concept of reality. So as we gain in knowledge, true knowledge will enhance your reality. It will make you aware of things that we had no idea about. The acceptance of that requires a flexibility, and that means that we have to be willing to change ourselves, and that is evolution. So Ruhani evolution is occurring when we accept new realities. If we close ourselves off with the lock of takabbur upon the gate of our heart, takabbur blinds us, and now new knowledge does not enter. And we have assumed that we know everything there is to know, yet we only know an immeasurably small fraction. So we say that evil thoughts do not lean towards them and affect their imagination with their own rust. And we know that evil thoughts which incite us, it is a recognition of them that is important. To recognize the thoughts that are coming within our mind as something that is perhaps an incitation by the nafs and the nafsul ammara, and we have to recognize it so that we don't let it affect our qalb. And as it is entering within our being, it is the evil thought, the whisperings that come, which we can shield ourselves against, but if we don't, they enter into our heart. So it is us who allows it. The thought presents itself as a waswasa, as a whispering, waswasa of Iblis, his children, or a little idea, a thought that comes in your mind from nafsatul ammara. And in that case, what we have to do with nafsul ammara is we have to quell it. However, if we entertain it, it comes into our heart. When it comes into our heart, it starts to grow. When it starts to grow, it rusts the heart. The rusting of the heart, because here it says, affects their imagination with their own rust. And the word that's been used in Arabic is fikr here, fikrihim. So it is our thoughts that start to become rusty. And rusty thoughts are only going to be more and more poisonous. The idea of rust, that it spreads, that it's toxic, that it will invade our heart in completion. So constant protection needed. The idea is metacognition. In psychology, the concept of metacognition, where we are thinking about our own thoughts, becomes essential here. Self-analysis, self-thought analysis. identification of the thought as good or not, as something we should accept or not. So the la is very important. La ilaha illallah is the shield. And we have to say la many, many times to many thoughts. Nowadays, the way the world is, when we are on social media, we are out in the world, we are listening to things, there's so much that we have to block out and say la to. As darkness in the world is growing, which it is, the light is less and less. It is there, but to see it, to feel it, to be in it, to make it a part of us is more and more challenging. And therefore, we need to get used to saying more no. You know, there needs to be a little bit of critical thinking when it comes to what will we accept and what will we not. We are being bombarded with different ideologies and different thoughts all the time. Among them are those who are in the frame of heavy clouds, or in the height of lofty mountains, or in the gloom of overpowering darkness. This is giving us an idea that we have angels everywhere. The angels everywhere are, now again, we recall bacteria as shayateen as well. Here are the angels, certain forces of nature. What we identify as forces of nature is in its true reality what Amir al-Mu'mineen salatu wassalamu alayhi is calling an angel. And there are those whose feet have pierced the lowest boundaries of earth. These feet are like white ensigns which have gone forth into the vast expanse of the wind. We are seeing forces here that are keeping the core of the earth together, gravity together. This is gravity explained right here. And so even gravity in itself is very mysterious to us. And here we are relating it to forces or angels, malaika. And even though we understand enough about gravity to be able to overcome it and go out into outer space and send various rockets and whatnot, in this situation, gravity, sure, we understand it, but at its core, if we ask ourselves, what is gravity? It is some unseen force. How do we imagine this force to be? When we look at some effects of nature, we realize they are in the form of waves. They are in the form of particles. What is gravity in the form of? This is something that is elusive, and it doesn't come up in the formulas that we use to calculate laws of motion, the laws of motion that we use to calculate movement and gravity. So they are also, under them blows the light wind, which retains them up to its last end. This is now our final atmosphere, the roof of our sky. And we are seeing that there are angelic forces that are keeping this intact. We can give it different names if we want to, but what the Creator is calling it is malaika. Occupation in his worship, staying busy worshiping him. And worshiping him comes in many forms. So the angels, with their specific duties and obligations, are worshiping Allah in various ways, and each of them tends to be more focused on a certain methodology of worship. We as human beings have been given a special gift where anything we do can be worship. There is almost very little, almost everything you do in the day, from sleeping to eating to talking to people to walking to sitting to all your various activities, be it job related, home related, social, your own leisure time, whatever time it happens to be, the intentions are what make it worship. So therefore, worship is not in action itself, but in intention. And that's why we see when we sleep, it is not worship. But if we do, the Riwayah says, if we do wuzu and go to sleep, then every breath is counted as worship. When we sleep while we are fasting, every breath is counted as worship. When we are eating, it can be gluttony. At the same time, when we eat with Bismillah, with the idea that this is sustenance from Allah, with thankfulness from Allah as we are eating with other mu'mineen, then this becomes worship. We are going to work out of greed. It is not. We are going to work because وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا. Allah has created the daytime for work and to gain our sustenance. We are doing it because He has told us to. Now this becomes worship, and so on and so on. I don't mean to go down that route. All of you know this better than me. The point being that when we look at our idea of worship, how much does it manifest? And we can see that in 24 hours, it can all be spent in worship if we have the correct intentions. So we see that their worship has made them carefree. Carefree, the word used in Arabic is ashghal. And carefree, you know, ashghal is now we are busy with something, but we are in a state of relaxation. This state of relaxation is, you know, what we want to achieve. Oftentimes people can be doing nothing, but be very discontent on the inside. The idea of vacation being the way to bliss, and the idea of doing nothing being the way to bliss is something that we often imagine. And many humans of our planet will plan vacations and retirements accordingly. Perhaps I can spend all day doing nothing. Perhaps I will be doing nothing in a beautiful environment around me with nature all around me. And what we find is that relaxation is important, but after a few days of relaxation, we feel the need to get back into things. It never provides us with eternal peace. Being carefree is eternal peace. Eternal peace comes, we see, when we are doing something that we consider productive, something where we are helping others, where we are establishing our own skills in a way that can affect the lives of other people. And when we are doing that with the intention of worship, that is where it becomes blissful and carefree. So it is not just in the service of others that we are finding eternal peace, but it is in the service of others for the sake of Allah. So that is the question, right? Because we can see many humanitarians who are perhaps giving to charity without believing in Allah. The idea that they are helping, but they are helping not because there's a divine entity. And they will clearly say this: I am not believing in any divine entity. This is me. Because if I don't do it for Allah, then I think I'm doing it for other people, but now actually I'm doing it for me. And this doing it for me will allow me to attain something, but it will be temporary. And therefore, we see that in that we get the reward, but we get the reward in this world. And if we want the reward from Allah, so when we do it for the sake of people, we get the reward from the people, and we get recognition, and we are called this and that. However, if we do it for the sake of Allah, then it would have been eternal. So easy. All we needed was the right intention, but intention comes with Iman, and Iman is not easy. The realities of faith have served as a link between them and His knowledge. Now here we see the realities of faith. So Haqa'iqul Iman, you know, this right here. And Haqa'iqul Iman is not easy to achieve. And when we talk about faith, you know, Iman, what is Iman? And sometimes there is an idea. And I know, you know, we're Urdu speaking community here. And of course, every community has their own interesting labels that we use for people. And this is the day and age of labeling. And I feel that it's almost like many of our, you know, our brothers of sisters of faith are like the people working in a retail store that are labeling. You know, when you have the price labeler and you go and you slap the labels onto every little item over there on the shelf. In the same way, this person is Ghali, Muqassir, this is Nusari, this is Maulai, this person is Usuli, this person is this person is, you know, perhaps more darsi, and this person is more amali, and you know, sometimes, and we go through different things, and all of them are interesting, but not a good idea. You know, my heart trembles. My heart trembles when I think of the very, very famous incident, which we all know, the gentleman who came to the house of our holy Imam, salatu wassalamu alayh. They sat outside the Imam's house. They told the servant, go and tell our master that his Shi'as are here. The master did not welcome them in. They waited. The usual format was that somebody came and said, yes, Mawla is waiting for you now. So they waited outside. Also, they are seeing other people being invited in one after the other. The whole day passes like this. It gets very late. They go home disheartened. This is repeated for 3 days. On the third day, as they are leaving, they cannot tolerate the punishment, as in now they are constantly wondering, what was our mistake? What was our sin? They are analyzing their whole lives. And then they finally say to the servant, please tell our master to tell us, what did we do wrong? Now, as soon as there is a realization, an acceptance of mistake, yes, inni kuntu min adh-dhalimin. When we reach the state of inni kuntu min adh-dhalimin, now the Imam comes and they are ready to hear now. And the Imam says that you said, there are my Shi'as. I do not see any sign of Shi'a amongst you. Why do you call yourselves that? You are muhib. Your status is not low. You have a status and you have our shifa, but understand what you are calling yourself. And so therefore, mislabeling of oneself, I see. If I look at this event, what I see is that in mislabeling oneself, the Imam doesn't talk to us for 3 days. What if we mislabel a fellow mu'min? What if we mislabel a believer and lover of our Imam? Now what is the punishment? So it's something that takes us away from Allah, not closer to him. It kept these gentlemen away from our holy Imam for 3 days. So the realities of Iman, what is it? And sometimes what we think is that, there's almost this arrogance that comes with Iman sometimes. And if it leads to strengthening of Iman, be arrogant. But if it leads to weakening of faith, if it leads to malice towards other people, perhaps this is not the way to be. And sometimes we see prevalent amongst us is the lack of action and word in regards to Iman. Rather, it is something that is inside, it is in my faith, it is a state of my mind. I don't need to express it. I am Mawlai, but I don't have any Sharia, I don't have any actions. So therefore we see, but what do you have? I have hub of Amirul Mu'mineen. So Hubbi Ali minus Sharia. If we write a formula here, like E equals MC squared or something, Hubbi Ali is the first variable minus sign Sharia equals Mawlai. Now, there's many factions and each one has their own criticisms. I happen to be looking at this one right now because we're talking about Iman. And so, I need to always check with myself. I only speak of myself and I need to make sure that I'm not fitting into this formula. So, Hubbi Ali minus Sharia equals Mawlai. But what we're saying is that we don't do any action and we are Mawlai. And that's really, it's Hubbi Ali plus Sharia equals Mawlai. We need to change that minus to a plus. And when we do that, we realize that as our holy Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, salatu wassalamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, stated regarding Iman when was asked, what is Iman, O Master? He said, Iman is words and action. He did not say Iman is a state of mind. He did not say Iman is something that is internal and cannot be seen. Iman is, it is a light of your heart, but it is words and action. We must be saying things, we must be doing something. Therefore, Iman is a cause which causes an effect, and the effect is word in action. So we need to see that word in action. That word in action tells us what is inside. But when he talks about Iman, the same holy Imam is asked in Al-Kafi, Babul Iman wal Kufr, and he's asked, what is the difference between Islam and Iman? Oftentimes we, or me maybe in the past, or people I know may have had the concept that, and this is sometimes said, it is said that, when we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, we are Musliman. And when we add in, wa ashhadu anna Amirul Mu'mineen Aliyun Waliyullah, as long as we want to make it, now we are having Iman. In actuality, is this true or not? And so all we have to do is look at the simple statement that all children are born Muslims. All children are born Muslims. But to be Muslim, we must recite the kalama. Islam is taslim. Taslim is acceptance. Acceptance is iqrar. Iqrar is shahada. Iqrar is shahadat. We testify to that which is the ultimate reality. By becoming a Muslim, we do taslim, we testify. This means we say the kalma. Now, when we say the kalma, we are not really, जिससे कहना चाहिए कोई बहुत बड़ा तीर नहीं मारा, कोई तीर नहीं मारा. Allah is there, we say la ilaha illallah. That is like there is an apple, astaghfirullah for the example. But in terms of, the obviousness of the situation, there's an apple on the table. I am sitting there saying, there is an apple on the table. If I do that, you will look at me and say, yes. And then you will wonder what's wrong with me. Why am I stating the obvious? La ilaha illallah is the very obvious. It becomes confusing in this world, perhaps with the darkness and all the confusion and contradictions and different forces at work, but La ilaha illallah is obvious. Now, the question is this always said? Because if every baby is born Muslim, then when did they do the kalma? A baby comes into the world, a baby is born in a Muslim family, a family of another faith, any other religion, no religion, any part of the world, they're considered to be Muslim. But when we look at Surah Araf, verse number 172, that's the Yawm al-Asr verse. In 172, what do we see? Alastu bi rabbikum. Allah is asking everybody who they are in spirit form before they are born. He is asking them, Alastu bi rabbikum. They are saying Bala. Now what they said was, Alastu bi rabbikum. Am I not your Lord? This is what the Rabb said. Am I not your Lord? Bala is a way to answer a negative question. Negative question meaning there's not in it. It's not, am I your Lord? Who is your Lord? Do you have a Lord? No. Am I not your Lord? So this is very specific, and this leaves nothing else. It's only yes or no. That's all we have to answer. We didn't get a very hard test before we came. All we had to do was say yes or no. Qalu bala. Everyone said bala. It does not say illa. That everyone said bala, and bala is the way you answer na'am or aywa. Is a way you answer a positive, a normal question. Am I your Lord? Aywa. Am I your Lord? Naam. When am I not your Lord? Now you will say bala. That indeed you are. This is when you answer a question with not in it, and you're answering it affirmatively. So everyone said bala, but it doesn't say illa. Oftentimes the Quran, when it gives an exception, how many angels prostrated to Hazrat Adam? It's not even mentioned how many, but a lot. And one jinn didn't, illa iblis. فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ. And did sajda all the angels together, illa iblis, except for one. So it could have been said, قَالُوا بَلَا illa, and illa a few, illa most of them, except for some of them, maybe mention a name. No, nothing. So everyone did. That means as we were born into this world, we had accepted Islam. How? We said bala. But we did not just say bala to one statement. Tafsirul Burhan. And in Tafsirul Burhan, regarding Imam, this verse, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, as-salatu was-salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allow me one moment.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali.
And so says that the question was asked, am I not your Lord? Is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam not my messenger? Is Ali Muhammad not my wali and the Amir of the Mu'mineen? So therefore we've all given that statement, and then we come into the world. This is Islam. What is Islam? We simply say bala. We accept. We give the shahada. We accept. We read the kalma. We recite it. And we recited it there as we came into the world. That is why if we do not deviate from this kalma, it's not something that someone born into a Muslim family has to go through as a ceremony to recite it. We go through various ceremonies as we get older. There are ceremonial practices, part of our Sharia, that we have to fulfill, if it's the aqiqah or it's the circumcision and various things. We reach a point of bulughiyat where now we realize that we have certain restrictions upon us. We have to obey certain laws, and we are called to account for them. In the same way, we could have, had a ceremony where istaqalma ceremony. And now we are going to say this, but we don't. We are born and we're Muslims. We don't wait for that baby to say La ilaha illallah. That baby is Muslim even before they can speak, because they have given the testimony already. Now, when they come into this world, now Islam is there. Notice, if we accept this riwayah and we accept this explanation of the verse that is mentioned and attributed to our holy Imam, we are saying that a Muslim is someone who has said all three kalima. It is not that, we are now 2/3 of the way we're Islam. No, Islam is complete submission. Submission is to the vilayah of Amirul Mu'mineen. So therefore, if we accept it, now we have Islam. But there is no action in this besides that. It is simply acceptance and stating it. There is words, but now words and action come together in Iman. When asked about Iman now, our Imam says that Iman is something that increases and decreases, and something that leads towards becoming Kamil. So Iman is ever increasing, that would be ideal, and then we reach a state of completion. Or Iman is something that is going up and down as well. Our Imam also says that Iman, and the same Babul, in Al-Kafi, the Bab of Iman al-Kufr, I'm continuing with the same few narrations on the same few pages. And the Imam also says that you have Iman for different parts of your body. My hands have different Iman from my eyes, have different Iman from my nose, has a different Iman from my feet, from my qalb. That is why each one of them, وَتَشْهَدُ أَرْجُلُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. That's why each one of these parts is going to testify against me. And so they each have their own Iman. And that becomes important for me in self-analysis. Because I may be sitting at the dinner table and eating less and getting up thinking, oh, look at me, I'm so Ibbtida of Zahad. And I am so, I'm so ruhani as I eat so little. Because the tongue has its own Iman, and that is stronger in me. That Iman of this part is stronger in me. But perhaps when it comes to the eyes, I am weak. And I'm tempted to see things that I should not see. Perhaps my eyes are always downcast and they say, mashallah, how ruhani, this person never even looks their eyes up. Perhaps they are seeing inside the hearts and the animal souls of people. They never look up. But then we realize that any opportunity they get, there is riba coming out of the mouth all the time. There is hasad and bughz and kina coming out. So now the tongue is weak in this sense. Perhaps somebody else is very, very abid and always in a state of prostration, but when it comes to their job, their hands are reaching for illegitimate wealth and trying to accumulate it. Perhaps somebody lives with very minimal money and we think there is no greed within them and they are above the needs for materialistic wealth. But then we see their heart is filled with certain desires that are haram, and they fulfill those desires in ways that are hidden from people. Sattarul Ayub. We don't jump to the conclusion about ourselves. It's always good to do husn zan for other people. Always good to think other people are amazing. That'll never harm you, unless they tell you something that is against your faith and you accept it. But just the idea of this person is better than me. They're more abid and zahid. They sin less. They are more in connection with Allah. That will always help us. But with ourselves thinking that, maybe not. So this is where, the angels are being explained to us in this paragraph. You're going to see all of that unfolding. Interestingly, Iman, which is words in action, our Imam says that Islam, when it becomes complete, the last step of Islam is the first step of Iman. The intiha of Islam is the Ibtida of Iman. That means that Islam, which was a simple event, in terms of the rest of the stages, Islam is the shortest, simplest event. But it is a matter of testifying, ashhadu anna, with true belief. And when it is with true belief, now we reach the Ibtida of Iman. And as Iman goes through stages, 70 stages, 70 ladders to climb. We reach the Kamil Iman, the Intiha of Iman, the last step of Iman, and this is the Ibtidah of Taqwa. Now Taqwa begins. You will see in this last verse over here, and also, Surah Baqarah, the verse recited at the beginning, you will see here, Ulaika alladhina sadaqu. They are the ones who are true. So Islam is true over here. And then they reach the point of Iman even. Wa ulaika humul muttaqun. Muttaqi is above the state of Iman. Islam, Iman, Taqwa. And when we become a Muslim, then what we are doing is we are accepting certain things. What are we accepting? Tawheed, prophethood, Nabuwah, and Imamah. Actually, not even Imamah per se, but Vilayat. Because in the Alastu narration, the question that was asked, Wa aliyun waliyullah wa amirul mu'mineen, not Imam. That's important because we're going to see where Iman comes in. So therefore, the Muslim is one who has accepted these things. But the Mu'min, who is the Mu'min? The Mu'min now is the one who has accepted Amirul Mu'mineen. But what is it for Muttaqeen? Amirul Mu'mineen, Imamul Muttaqeen. When we are a Mu'min accepting an Amir is your leader, your king, your sultan, your caliph, your emperor, whatever synonym you want to give to it, who is sitting upon a throne, who is giving commands to all the subjects, all the ones who are listening, all the ones who are following in ita'at, then he is giving the commands and there is a general acceptance of them. But what does it say? Why is it not Amirul Muttaqeen? Why is it not Imamul Mu'mineen? Because now when we are a muttaqi, we are accepting our Amir as our Imam. And Imam is one who is in front. Amir is one who sits upon a seat and we are looking at them face to face. We are not necessarily in tune with them. When the Imam is your Imam, now as they are walking, we are walking behind them, step by step, following everything. This level is not easy. Yes, the hadith says, Ya Ali, hubbuka, your hub, at-taqwa wal-iman, is taqwa and iman. So this means that hub is that manifestation. When we have faith, how will we know our faith is there? Because faith is something that's hard to fathom. But Allah has made something that is easier for you to feel, something that is very obvious, and that is love, that is hub. And therefore your hub for Amirul Mu'mineen is something that is known to you. You know how much you love different things. This is something that is in our nature. Even children, I like this, I don't like that. I really like this, I really love that. This is my favorite. This is the best I've ever had, and so on. We are always categorizing things according to how much we like, dislike, love, hate, etc. Various levels and labelings we do. It is part of what allows us to know us. So how can we know our faith? Look and see what is the hub of Amirul Mu'mineen. But the hub of Amirul Mu'mineen is an effect of faith, and faith and the effect of hub is going to be action. So we need to see that action. So hub is iman, hub is taqwa, but iman is one stage, taqwa is the stage above. Taqwa is the stage where la rayba fihi hudal lil muttaqin, not hudal lil mu'minin. Therefore, hidayah from the imam is coming to the muttaqi. So we see that the mu'min is one whose belief in Amirul Mu'mineen and hub allows him to realize the importance of following the laws, the Sharia. We follow those laws, we become aware of them, we follow them, we implement them in our lives. And we are analyzing ourselves to make sure we are working in accordance with what the Amir has commanded. But when we are muttaqi, now we are not only following the commandments, we are making sure that we model our life after Amirul Mu'mineen as he lived. We live like him, the way he lived, the way he walked, the way he sat, the way he stood. We want to copy him. We want to emulate him, what he spoke, how he spoke, what he did, how he did it. and all of his priorities in life, then we are reaching the point of taqwa, muttaqi. Now, as we reach the point of muttaqi, then the intiha of taqwa, the last step of taqwa, is the Ibbtida of Zahad. Now what we do is we reach Zahad. And so the question is, when is one a Shia? Because they were called muhib in the narration that we just repeated, not Shia. The Imam said, you are our muhibbin. You are not the Shias of Ali. And there is a distinction, and we remember this, in Hadith al-Qissa. It's always a reminder and an admonishment for me. And it's beautiful that it comes right at the end. That's the final punchline for me, in which we see the Holy Prophet saying, وَفِيهِ جَمْعٌ مِّن شِيعَتِنَا وَمُحِبِّينَا. But then he mentions both. But when we look at Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he talks about what he considers as victory, إِذَا اللَّهِ فُزْنَا وَسُعِدْنَا وَكَذَلِكَ شِيعَتُنَا. He doesn't say muhibbina. Oh, Master, why did you not say muhibbina? Perhaps he will say that I do not want you to stay at the state of muhib. My definition of victory is to become the Shia. So if Amir al-Mu'mineen is giving importance to that, then when he calls a Shia, this is where we are reaching that point. So we see that we reach the point of Zuhud. But the point of Zuhud is different from the level of taqwa. And so therefore we see that in Iman, we are following the Sharia, letter by letter. It is when we implement it in our lives completely that we come to taqwa. And taqwa now comes with a sense of fear as well. It often comes with a sense of fear, taqwa. And that's how it's defined sometimes. But no, it is hubb. It is not fear, but it is hubb. And therefore, when you are, subhanallah, therefore, when, we are reaching now, are we now capable of being called by Amir al-Mu'mineen a Shia? But it's that word muhib that still hinders us here, in the sense that Ya Ali hubbuka taqwa wal iman. Even at taqwa level, we are still in hubb. This hubb needs to change into something else. The level above hubb is muwadda, wudda, muwaddat. Muwaddat is hubb with ma'rifah. As ma'rifah increases and we go into taqwa, now what happens is that hubb turns into a higher level, muwaddat. And muwaddat is very different. Hubb is to love that which benefits us or pleases us. Hubb is loving that which benefits us or pleases us. Muwaddat is that love which occurs after recognition of quality, acceptance of that recognition, and desiring that ma'rifah. When we recognize the true nature of the Ma'sumin in some sense, and now we want to know more, now we are reaching muwadda. And therefore, muwadda is going to come after taqwa. Taqwa is still the level of hubb. Perhaps we may not be looked upon by our Amir and called Shia until we ascend higher. And now we're going to the level of Zuhud. As we reach the level of Zuhud, now there is a constant fear in us of doing anything that might displease our Imam. When we were in Islam, we submitted, we accepted the obvious and said it. As we went into Iman, now we are following all of the laws of faith. As we go into taqwa, now we are emulating the Amir in every way possible. As we go into Zuhud, we are always thinking, is it possible that what I'm doing, the Amir may not be pleased with? When something new presents itself, our first question is, will the Amir approve of this or not? Sometimes my go-to is, well, is there what's the law on this? Is there a fatwa on this? Let's find out. If there isn't, let's ask. Let's make sure. And that's good. That's good. Sometimes we're not sure, even despite all of that. And that's where the person that says, well, maybe my Amir would not be pleased, so I will refrain myself. I'll be cautious. I'll be careful. Now, the world may call this person foolish. Look at them. They are refraining from certain desires and fun just because they think maybe their Amir is not going to approve. But what would your Amir think of you? What would Imam think of you when you are showing that level of loyalty, that level of caution? So now we reach the point of Zahad. Going beyond that, there's actually two more levels that I wanted to discuss here in completion of this and the next two paragraphs. So unfortunately, I didn't move as forward as I wanted to, but these are four levels: Islam, Iman, Taqwa, and Zahad. And as we reach Zahad, we are moving beyond Hub and Mawadda. We are moving in, increasing in Ma'rifah, and we are approaching that level where there could be no greater moment in our existence than to have the Amir al-Mu'mineen call someone a Shia. That would be our peak. That would be, the ultimate dream. Perhaps for some, it will be to win an award in some, there's awards given for various things in the world, and I don't want to go there, but you know what I mean. And people are striving for these awards, yet what is our award? The idea of Amir looking at you and saying, Hada Shi'ati, Hada Shi'atuna. And so we'll continue with the other two levels and then hopefully move further ahead. I have been guilty of spending much time, and I know we spent over 20 Sundays on Sermon 1. And so I promised I would be a little faster here. So inshallah, thank you for bearing with me though. And that Amir, Ya Ali, hubbuka taqwa wal iman. And those people who showed hatred for Amir, and not only showed hatred for the Amir, but also to the point where that hatred extended to their family. And when Imam Hussein on the plains of Karbala asks, what did I do? What is my sin? Bughzan li abik. तो जवाब मिलता है कि आपके बाबा का बुग़्ज़ है. बुग़्ज़ तमाम असहाब हुसैन को शहीद करके बुग़्ज़ जो है उसकी आग नहीं बुझी. यहाँ तक कि इमाम हुसैन को शहीद कर दिया, आग नहीं बुझी. उसके बाद खैमों पे भी हमला कर दिया. खैमों पे हमला कर दिया. ये है बुग़्ज़ और कुफ्र की इंतहा कि इंसान बेवाओं का और बच्चों का भी ख्याल नहीं करता. और सलाम है आकाज़ादी ज़ैनब बिनते अली, आकाज़ादी उम्मे कुलसूम पर, कि जो शाम ग़रीबा में कोई अब्बास बन गया तो कोई अली बन गया. और यहाँ तक के छोटे छोटे बच्चों को जमा करना शुरू किया. आकाज़ादी ज़ैनब ने अपनी बहन से कहा, जाके देखो कौन बच्चा बचा है और कौन नहीं बचा. कहा कि जाके बच्चों की लाशें घोड़ों के समों तले रौंदी गई थी. किसी बच्चे को आकाज़ादी उठाती थी तो सांसें नहीं आ रही थी. किसी बच्चे को उठाती थी तो कुछ सांसें बाकी थी. जिंदा बच्चों को जमा करना शुरू किया. बाकी बच्चों को गंजे शहीदा में रख दिया. यहाँ तक कि सब बच्चों को जमा कर लिया. और आकाज़ादी अब्बास बन के टूटा हुआ नेजा लेके पहरा दे रही थी कि घोड़ा सवार सामने से आया. जब आकाज़ादी ने कहा कि आगे मत बढ़ना, पता है मैं अब्बास की बहन ज़ैनब बिनते अली हूं, तो उस वक्त नकाब हटा के कहा, ए मेरी बेटी, तुम्हारा बाबा तुम्हारे साथ शुरू से है. लेकिन कहा कि बाबा अब आए हो बाबा. उस वक्त कहाँ थे जब मेरे भाई के सर को काटा जा रहा था. फसयअलमुल लज़ीना ज़लमू अय्य मुनक़लबिन यनक़लिबून अला लअनतुल्लाहि अलल क़ौमिज़ ज़ालिमीन. Request for Surah Fatiha for the marhumin for whom this Masa'ib was the Isal for.
جی جزاک اللہ مولانا صاحب. مومنین مومنات آپ سے گزارش ہے ایک دفعہ سورہ فاتحہ اور 3 دفعہ سورہ اخلاص پڑھ کر جناب محترمہ زینب موسوی اور ان کے اہل خانہ کے مرحومین اور سید مصطفیٰ علی موسوی کے مرحومین اور سید محمد عسکری جعفری اور جتنے بھی حاضرین ہیں اور جتنے بھی محبان محمد وآل محمد مرحومین کے مرحومین ہیں ان سب کو لیے ایک سورہ فاتحہ اور 3 دفعہ سورہ اخلاص.
Assalamu alaikum participants, and now we will have a question answer session for 15 minutes. So please, if you have any questions to ask Maulana, please welcome.
مصطفیٰ صاحب اس سے پہلے وہ زیارت کا ہے کہ جیسے ہم زیارت کر کے اس پروگرام کو کمپلیٹ کر کے پھر لائک لائیو نشریات بند کر دیں گے اور پھر اس کے بعد سوال جواب کا کریں گے جیسا آپ بولیں. آپ کی آواز نہیں آ رہی ہے. ہم لوگ زیارت پڑھ لیتے ہیں تاکہ پروگرام
انگلش کے بعد بالکل بند کر دیں لائیو.
اچھا تو ہم پہلے زیارت پڑھ لیں.
پڑھ لیں اور تو اس کے ہاں پڑھ لیں چلیے.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. السلام علیکم یا ابا عبداللہ، السلام علیکم ابن رسول اللہ، السلام علیکم وعلی جدک و ابیک، السلام علیکم وعلی امک و اخیک، السلام علیکم یا ابو الفضل العباس، السلام علیکم یا حر شہید، السلام علیکم یا مسلم ابن عقیل، السلام علیکم جمیع شہداء کربلا و رحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکم یا غریب الغرباء، السلام علیکم یا معین الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام علیکم یا صاحب عرب و عجم، السلام علیکم یا ابو الحسن یا علی ابن موسی رضا راز بالقدر والقضاء رحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ، السلام علیکم یا صاحب عصر والزمان، الامان 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 من فتنۃ الزمان، السلام علیکم یا شریک القرآن، السلام علیکم یا امام الانس والجان، عجل اللہ تعالیٰ فرجک، سہل اللہ تعالیٰ مخرجک، سہورک ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. اللہم صلی اللہ محمد وعلی محمد. And now we will start question and answer session for 15 minutes. If anyone has any question, they can ask Maulana Sahab. Thank you. Jazakallah.
ماشاء اللہ جو ہمارے جو لوگ ساتھ ہوتے ہیں سب ساتھی سنڈے کے جو ہیں ایک سے